our water has been protected by a thing called the public trust. The public trust is written into our state constitution. There's been an attack on the public trust from many different directions in the last year. What's happened in regard to water withdrawal is that the idea in one of these bills was to make water a possession of the landowner. In western states, that is a fact. You go out to Colorado or Arizona or California, three places where there's terrible, terrible problems with water. That's the case. Water is owned privately. Currently, that's not the case here. But one of these bills would have had a situation where if a well went bad, went dry, or otherwise needed some sort of work, there would be no respect toward the state regarding checking it out. It would be rubber stamped. If a well, if I should say a landowner took his retirement and sold his property to his son, there would be no problem with the well. The well would go along with the property rights. That's the idea of that public trust. That then becomes a private entity owning water. These bills were dedicated to that sort of thing. We've had problems with our water, and we've had problems with these CAFOs. There were some attempts at having legislation to talk to that. Our local representative here in the 72nd District did sponsor some facets to a couple of these bills that would have established, for one thing, a thing called a sensitive resource area. Eventually, we would have been identified quite possibly as a sensitive resource area. It would have given the right for the state to go in and do studies. These studies would have to have been approved by the DNR. And not only the DNR, but then the DNR would have to have gone to the state to get approval for funding. First of all, approval to do the studies. Secondly, approval for funding. The process by which all this would have taken place is said to have been between 7 and 10 years. That's a long time. There's a lot of water going down the road between now and then. So that's kind of just a broad idea of what happened. What stopped them? Personally, and this is my take on it, personally, the lobbying groups in the state weren't happy with, as drastic as these bills were, with what they would have done for them. And they put pressure on the legislature to get more and more and more, and it didn't happen. So that's my take on it. I'd like to think that I helped stop it, and the people that I worked with, and other people, citizens that actually traveled down to Madison and appeared and testified at hearings regarding these bills. I was down there 6 times in the last year. Not that me, I. But the point here is that I think, to a certain degree, some of what we had to say was listened to. Most of these bills the bills that were passed on a party line vote. We have a majority in both houses of one party. And there hasn't been any cooperation in any of the legislation in the last 5 years regarding anything. It's all been jammed. So the next session, what's going to happen? More of the same as far as I'm concerned. We saw bills that were close to being passed. There was a lot of jury rigging going on at the tail end of the legislative session. I think we can expect to see some of these bills return with a vengeance. Bad bills repeating? Absolutely. The power of your voice is something that a lot of people don't think about. And you know, I hate to pound on this, but it is. And it's amazing how you feel once you get a chance to interact in your government. At least for me it is. I'm tickled pink with it. It's a great thing. Other ways to be heard? Emails and telephone calls. Believe it or not, legislators actually listen to some of us, because some of us actually do that. And you can go down to the Capitol and you can lobby yourself. I've done that also. I went to the Capitol with a group of people here a couple of months ago, and we lobbied a number of the majority party's representatives regarding one of these bills. And it's interesting. One of the 19 people that we talked to that day actually sat down with us and had a face-to-face conversation and was polite and there was information exchanged that was good. Another situation wasn't so good. The representative actually got into a baiting contest with one of our members. And sad to say, it wasn't me. I've got a terrible temper. I walked out of the room when it started to happen. But this guy and this representative were at each other like that. So where am I going with all this? Just the fact that your own involvement is something that is absolutely worthwhile. So Steve Raap is going to give you a wrap-up on what we have today.
I'm Steve Rapp. My wife is Linda. We've been in the town of Rome, full-time residents, since 1978. That was our first year of marriage. I'm 63 now. A few months after we moved into our first home back then, we contacted Bill Maher, owner of Maher's Water Care. I knew Bill. I used to sell advertising to him for the Tribune early on. Bill came out, tested our water. He was hoping he could sell us a water softener. After the test, he stated, and I quote, "The results of your water test reveal that you have water that is closest to distilled as I've ever seen." Needless to say, he didn't sell us a water softener. Flash forward 38 years. 37 years was this last year. We're now in our newer home at Lake Arrowhead. We've been there 16 years now. And Bill came out, tested our water again at my request. He said it's just as pure now as it was back then. But we bought a water softener anyway. Felt I owed it to him. I'm telling you all this because the purity of my water is something that I treasure. It's something I don't want to lose. It's something I'm willing to fight for as much as I'm able to, not being a public speaker. But as you heard here today, the deck is stacked against us. The DNR has their hands tied by the trimming of their ranks. They fired knowledgeable scientific personnel, plus water rights rules are under attack by the current state administration, including the Attorney General, just this very week, if you've been reading the news. The fight against the establishment of a concentrated animal feeding operation in the town of Saratoga will not be won in the court of law, but it can be won in the court of public opinion. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the public, you and me. Your opinion can help to sway the decision makers on this issue. So here's what you can do. First of all, make sure that you've signed the clipboard sheets here today. They're back on the table if you haven't, with your name and email. With that information, we will be able to send you alerts from our core group when there is a need for you to take further action on upcoming issues regarding the CAFO. Secondly, be sure you have received a copy of the contact list printout we've passed out today. It displays the email addresses of the many government officials and departments who need you to hear from you on this issue. We'll even follow up with you and send you a sample email that you can copy and paste and send to those government entities. That's how easy we're trying to make this for you to do. Then in the next few weeks, please do take some time to send those emails to as many of the addresses on the list as possible. Let them know that when you want to keep your access to clean water in the town of Rome, and speak out against the CAFO now before it's too late to do so. Thirdly, be sure to attend the upcoming EIS response meeting in Wisconsin Rapids. We'll send you an email on the time and location, if in case they change that location of that meeting. There you can express your opinion about the CAFO directly to the DNR if you're willing to step up to the mic. And finally, educate yourself on the positions our local political candidates hold on the CAFO issue. Then vote for those candidates whose positions would help to save our water. Thank you for attending this meeting, and I look forward to raising many a fresh, clean drinking water glass with you in the years to come. Thanks again.